Here, I want to go over these things before we get into it. I just want to read it.
I'll get it. Most of it. Let's summarize it. Oh, sorry.
You're fine.
I got a YouTube notification.
Well, that means it's working.
City of Richwood went live.
I just got it too.
I got one of them old phones. I had to
I
cut
was
all
with
the
y'all last
notifications
week
off
online.
because it
Did you?
Drained your battery.
drained my battery, filled
kept getting
my
Did you watch
alerts
it?
that it was
memories
slow.
up, and
How was it? It was hard for me to, the internet connection when I was in Vegas and we tried to follow along.
That day we had issues.
Yeah.
I was having Wi-Fi issues.
No, it was really good. The only time, there was a couple of times that people in the audience would talk and you couldn't hear them as clear, but if you turned your volume up, you could hear.
Yeah, there was a lot of talking from
Yeah, like-
where they were at, not at the department.
go ahead and call to order this Richwood City Council Budget Workshop for Monday, July 18th, 6 p.m. If everybody would stand for the invocation.
Let us pray. Holy Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight. Help us to make the best decisions for the city of Richwood as we go through the finances. And be with all of us as we leave this place tonight. Be with our city, be with our residents. And we thank you for all you have given us. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Okay, let the record reflect that all council members are here tonight. And we'll move on to public comments. I see no one in the chair, so I doubt we have any.
There's no sheet.
Okay. All right, moving on to item 6, which is the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda June 2022 budget report.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Escalante. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Councilmember Yarborough. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough, or Councilmember Strong, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
And Councilmember Langford, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect that motion carries unanimously. Item 7, discussion and action items. Discuss and consider approval of amendment to the professional services agreement with Strand and Associates.
Council, this is this would be the second amendment to the professional services agreement with Strand Associates, which began originally in 2018. The first amendment was a renewal for an additional 2 years in 2020, and this will carry us through May 31st of 2024. This is a zero cost. It really serves more as a formality. We do have current projects underway with Strand. We would get the same services if we weren't in a service agreement. Really more on their end, this streamlines the process for them to be able to generate task orders, cost opinions. It's a streamlined process for them. If we had to employ them for anything, it would be a large booklet we have to go through and sign like we did when we brought them on as the city engineers. So I'm just requesting that we go ahead and extend their the service agreement for an additional 2 years.
What was their initial term? Was it a 2-year, 4-year, 6-year?
It was 2
8-year?
year.
So it's
Yes.
2-year with conditional renewal?
Yes.
And we had discussion, mayor and council, on this, the rebidding or whatever the case may, it's a moot point because this is really our, any project would go out to bid. This is for supplemental engineering services that we have an immediate need right now for an engineer. We can go to them outside of that, but any big project's going to be bid anyway. It's like Cliff said, it's a kind of a formality. We tossed it around last week. You just want to rebid it, but it's a $0 bid. So I'm not sure what interest would be out there other than our regular people.
And we've gone through the process once. I'd say it shouldn't be done again at some point maybe, but yeah, as of right now, everything's working out well. They're very responsive for everything we need, and it's I think it's a healthy move to extend for another 2 years.
What is that win? Because I agree, I have no issues with Strand, but I just, as we've done with our auditors, you know, with waste, we've looked at a lot of these long-term contracts that we've not changed providers.
Mm-hmm.
What keeps us from turning this from 18 into 2028, I mean, long-term, and we never evaluated another? If we're gonna do this one for 2 more years, 24, we're gonna come around, and we're gonna do 2 more years, I guess.
Well, I guess that's really up to council, and when, you know, procurement for engineering services would be a point to make. At this point in time, it's my opinion, it's not. I can't speak for council. To keep us as an active client or more streamlined, really.
And it's up that. We've asked for a lot of quick estimates,
Right.
you know, month to month for council agenda items, and it's been nice. They have the history. They've done a lot of legwork for other projects, so they're able to quickly take it.
Yes, sir.
Like I said, I just want to make sure we don't get into a point where we're 10, 15 years with the same company and we never evaluated anybody else.
It might be something to consider. You know, I would think by May 31st, 2024, if we want to go out for RFQ again to take a look at what's out there, it might not be a bad idea.
Okay, any further questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment of the professional service agreement with Strand Associates until May 31st, 2024.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Johnson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Councilmember Langford. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Langford, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7, item number 8. Fiscal year 2023 budget workshop.
Mayor and council, does everybody have a packet in front of you? Big one. We're going to mirror what's on here with what's on there, but if you have any want to make notes or whatever, we provided this packet for you as well as what we sent to you on there. A couple of things starting out to open up the budget workshop. I'm sure you're all aware that, you know, at this time we do not have our certified roll, so we're guesstimating on taxes on ad valorem. We're waiting on a couple of insurance quotes to come back, so we're going to plug and play some estimated values in here, but rough numbers, really what we're looking at tonight as far as this budget goes and our projections is our expenditure side. We'll take a shot at the revenues up here, but rolling into really why we're here this evening is to look at our expenditures and our budget overall, minus those few things. There are a few things that I think are worthy of mentioning right now. going into this. One, kind of the key takeaways on this are, the economy's up in the air. Fuel costs are up in the air. It's kind of hard to budget, worst case scenario, because it could get even worse. So we've done a healthy job of not doomsday, but we've taken some pretty aggressive approaches with our budgeting. Included in this is also a 5% COLA this year. Straw poll, council usually asks me, what are the others around us doing? Because if we lose our employees, to be perfectly frank with you, we're going to lose them around here. We're not going to lose them, across the state. They're going to move somewhere close. We have one that neighboring city is going to do a 4%. We have one that's going to do a 14%, and we have several that are doing anywhere between 5 and 10%. So we kind of shot for the 5%, and I think our budget will bear that out as well. That said, we also have a list of supplementals, and we'll go through those at the end. If you'll flip over to, I guess, page 3 on your numbered sheet, we'll start out with the revenues. And again, this is a ballpark estimate. It looks like we're going to be plus about 120,000 on revenues this year, and that's being fairly conservative on that estimate. And we go to the page 4 on the miscellaneous. We go down to the total on the line items. It looks like we're going to be about 3.164 roughly. It should be on our proposed budget. That's what we're using as the number now. That could very well change a little bit here or there. But on to page 5, we go into the general fund on the expenditure side. No real great changes in this. Again, a majority of the increases that you're going to see here are fuel and insurance, some CPI increases, and some engineering stuff some IT stuff that we had, but that's what we're looking at on that. So it looks like we're at about, on the admin side, 740, 984, and again, that's conservative. The numbers you see to the right, we'll talk about those in the gold. Those are supplementals. We'll talk about those at the end. Those are not figured in the budget at this time. Down to the judicial line item on the bottom of page 10. Again, the only increases there are some attorney's fees and, again, salaries and wages. Permanent inspections, it's going to go down a little bit. We'll discuss more on that when we get into the supplemental line items. But if you look at the history with permitting inspections, it's up and down. There's some years that cost a little more, some years a little less. This is what we budgeted this year. Special revenues pretty much stays the same. It's going to be the same. Next page, page 8 is public safety. And feel free to stop me. Melissa, this year we included some notes on the right side. I don't believe we had that last year. We went ahead and included this year. And these are just 1 notes for us, but 2 notes that might help you all as well. If you look at the PD in summary, looks like $1,125,140. That includes $6,000. One of the big changes this year is for active shooter and active shooter situation supplies. So we've got $4,000 for shield and door ram, and 2,000 for first aid supplies. Those first aid supplies will put attack medical gear in each police car, including shears, bandages, Israeli bandages, tourniquets, chest seals, the whole 9 yards. So there'll be one in every unit that we have. Looking back through the line items, I don't see fuel. Yeah, fuel's a big increase.
I noticed on gas, oil, and lubricants, you've got an increase, and then on vehicle M&R, you've got oil changes, so you got oil in both lines?
No, that's an old.
That's an old.
That's an
Okay.
old one. This carries forward notes that, where are you at?
Gas, oil, and
Yeah, that's, you can disregard that.
Which
You can
one?
Catch that, the oil changes,
Okay.
1,800. Or no, I'm sorry, no, those do belong there. Fuel, the fuel line is just fuel now.
It's not maintenance
Gas,
on the
oil, and
vehicles.
lubricants, that's just fuel.
That's just.
It's just gas. It's just how they like they do with
I'm
it.
sorry, I went wrong.
The maintenance is in the north.
Okay.
Oil changes and things go under vehicle M&R.
And you see insurance, billing, liability, and bonds, which is 55,630, 55,640. Those are just estimates right now, but we estimated those pretty high. Also included this year's budget is our increase in for our contract with dispatch this year with Lake Jackson. That is included in this as well.
Where's that captured, Eric?
And the dispatch services 55.
Oh, there we go.
Top of page 9.
71 down.
Yeah, 55,
I knew that was gonna be
540.
big.
And then next year it's even more.
Yeah, this is still in a nice step.
Yeah.
Next year's
Yeah,
gonna
next
be
year
another
goes there.
large.
And
Yeah.
I think she has it there. the
128, 585.
Yeah.
Okay.
So moving on, no questions on the fire department PD. We go to the fire side. Again, no drastic change here. A bulk majority of these increases are, again, insurance and fuel. We got a little bit of an increase for M&R this year. We just have an older vehicle that's going to need a little bit of extra work this year. So at the request of fire chief, we included that in the budget. Code enforcement. We can go ahead and talk about this right now, and we can circle back to this if you'd like. But code enforcement budget basically roughly the same except for fuel. But if you look over in the gold column in the supplemental, we have at the request of council, we brought the code enforcement position. It's not in the budget, it's a supplemental. If you so desire, we can put it in. 63,477, and then 2,000 to cover incidentals until we get this position up and running and find out what mileage use, uniforms, training, stuff like that. We just went ahead and put the 2,000 in there to cover some additional expenses. But you're talking cost of 63,477. If we were to go part-time with that position, would be 22,566 less. So roughly 38,911 for a part-time position. So there's one of two choices there for council. Full-time is going to be roughly 63, and part-time is going to be roughly 40. And we can come back to that when we talk supplementals overall. Public Works. This would be going down to the bottom line. Where Public Works is going to be a little bit less this year than anticipated. There's just a few items that we paid off last year, a few different things. So budgeted this year's 213,777. It's down 50,000 over last year, so that's a good thing. We are replacing a zero-turn mower We wrote that into the budget, greatly needed. Otherwise, we're going to be spending a lot of money on maintenance on that, and it doesn't need it. We just need a new one.
The big drop is we bought a vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have emergency disasters, the next line item. Proposed zero. The previous 2 years were flood and freeze. I'm sorry, storm and freeze. Cleanup.
One second here.
Yeah.
You said we bought a vehicle in FY22. That was
The
the
60,000, or 59,422,
Yeah.
that was 2 vehicles.
okay.
So that's why there's a sizable drop, because we're not doing that this
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, that was our pickup truck and our code enforcement vehicle.
And then code enforcement vehicle would easily slide to a full-time code enforcement officer. There's
Yeah, it'd be shared.
no other need for that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And Parks and Rec, again, small bump there for insurance, and a little increase in M&R. So we've got a budget amount of $54,800. Developer agreements are $10,000. Some departmental transfers, CCPD, replacement fund, utility fund, transfer to transportation fund, transfer from general construction. All of these basically were approved, or CCPD was approved through CCPD last night? Night before, last night?
No, last week.
Thursday.
I'm sorry, last week. Last week, so that we'll be bringing that to council as well. And we've got some transfers out to transportation, contingency fund. The 257,784 is 10% of our expenditures, so that could go up or down depending on what you guys approve as your budget, but just know it's 10% of that is our contingency fund. Replacement, vehicle replacement, beautification for KRB. And in the gold over there, you see the 575. Again, that will be a supplemental. We'll talk about that at the end. We did increase the replacement fund to the fire department. We kept it at $20,000 since it was underfunded again anyway. We kept it at $20,000 to keep that fund going. And
Line 985962, transfer to replacement vehicles in general. Is that all other city vehicles?
that's correct. That's city vehicles, keeping in mind PD vehicles, or you think, since we've checked, we're all bought out of CCPD, so,
And that's that's kind of what I was going to get to.
yeah.
And that's just like a savings account for
It builds.
Okay.
next time we.
But
We
for
just put in every year.
anything outside of fire department and then police department, historically covered through CCPD.
That's correct. Any questions on that? Down at the bottom of the page, one of the things that we're asked is, you know, where are we as far as fund balances go? And our pat answer is always, your fund balances don't show up until we close the year. It's kind of unlike your checkbook, where you can probably tell me to the penny where you are today. Ours is a little bit different because there are so many moving parts. But as of 10/1 of 21, you're talking about unrestricted funds or unassigned funds that are unencumbered. There's $1,843,045. As to what Matt was at, our contingency fund is $274,144. And then other funds, 26,380. Trish, can you explain what the other funds essentially is and why it's not in the 1.8?
Placement, that's in there too, but I keep track of how much goes in for fire, how much.
So you have it broke down further.
And then the general fund is Fund 10. And then one note, the got at least 6 months. That was as a replacement, but then we took some out. Those balances will be reflected at the end of this year. But
And we'll hit on some of this fund balance when we get to the supplementals. Dropping down to expenditures in Crime Control Prevention District. Again, those are pretty standard. Is that the budget that was agreed to, Chief?
Yes.
So the 90,000. Okay.
That was what they adopted Thursday.
Yeah. So that'll come back to council for approval.
one note I wanted to make on that, CCPD agreed to cover up to $15,000 of overtime for the police department. I can't split overtime pay, so some of it comes out of CCPD and some of it comes out of general fund. So we have to do a transfer, and so that's, you'll see on the general fund there's a transfer in, and on CCPD there's a transfer out to cover that $15,000. So the total budget in general fund for police overtime is $65,000, but CCPD is covering $15,000 of that. But that's how we have to show it.
Okay.
I was curious, the training and travel went up triple.
In CCPD?
Is that, I know a lot of them are free, but I know, I'm sure quite a bit of them cost money, but that seemed like a lot.
Triple. Basically, they're bearing more of the burden. It didn't increase on the PD side. They're bearing more of the burden to free up money on the PD side for other things.
Gotcha.
If you look at the general fund, this current year.
So it just kind of moved over.
Yeah.
So they're bearing some of that burden.
Shedding some of that load for the expenditure and dispatch. Okay, changes in fund balances are all pretty much self-explanatory. Those are the transfers that Fund 20 on page 19, I guess on the far right-hand side. Again, revenues, we're looking at about 16.8. Expenditures, we're looking at 26,675.
So I discussed with Kim, they're dipping into their fund balance this year, and that it's not a real good habit to get into. They lost some revenue when the farmer's market closed. They are looking into other ways to increase fundraising. So hopefully that will go away, but they do have a little bit of room in their fund balance, but she's understanding of that. So.
Yeah, I noticed the contract labor went up a lot. Is that to help with?
They increased her stipend.
Oh, is it hers? Okay.
And landscaping.
Landscaping, that's
Yes.
what I was thinking.
He did have an increase in cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, her stipend actually.
I think it went up last
this-
year.
this
I think they-
current year,
Yeah,
but the landscaping.
they did have an increase.
Yeah. I wondered since they
And I think they
landscaped
added
that
some more
sign.
locations, the new location.
Mhm.
They added that to it, so it did go up.
That's what I was thinking.
And I'm sure just cost goes up in general
Oh,
because
yeah.
of fuel and things.
Everything.
So I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but with the money they're awarded, that'll be for a standalone separate
That will not
project.
even
We don't
come
even get
through
that money.
us.
They did all separate, they just come in and do the work and leave, and then we maintain it.
Our finance director is very happy about that. Though.
No more
Yeah.
grant money.
It's like, what, I don't get to play with that money? Oh, darn.
Yes, so, yeah, and the good thing about it is that money that they get is straight towards supplies, not engineering, so the state covers the engineering part.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so we're looking back,
Supplies and labor.
25, the transportation fund. Again, your revenue side is a rough guesstimate, if you will, but we got a little bit of an increase there. We go down to the expenditures. So before everybody panics, the 1,770,000 number, that includes the $750,000 as we had talked about for completion of Oakwood Shores. That's where that comes from.
What page are you on?
21, lower right.
Okay.
So pretty much everything else stays the same there, except there's a very slight increase in streets M&R, but that's
I gave you all a sheet that looks like this. And that shows where we're sitting right now with the streets project bond fund, Fund 26. And it kind of in the middle of the page, of the bottom of that top box, there's $451,000 left in the streets portion. When the bond was passed, it was allocated, so that's how much is left. So I have put in $450,000 to transfer to transportation, and then we will use $300,000 from the fund balance of the transportation fund to fund that $750,000. So we're going to be able to finish Oakwood Shores roads cash out.
Material pricing with free labor through the county, correct?
That's correct. Now, cannot commit to 100% completing Oakwood Shores as we had talked about. Our hope is they get out there and they, kind of like last time, they just get on a roll and they finish. So some caveat to that is we're going to get at least a little over a mile.
We're going to get to an intersection.
We're going to get to an intersection. We're not going to stop mid-road, but we're going to get that. So material costs, we don't know. We've got a ballpark, and we're going to stick within that, but we'll have enough money to finish Oakwood Shores. That's the main thing. The second portion is this may be, if the weather holds, they're going to rock and roll. If it doesn't hold and we get into a rainy season, I can foresee this going into next year. So we're just hoping it holds and it carries on. But the money's the same either way. So I just want to give everybody kind of a heads up on that. That's where that big number, the one.
If that doesn't get done within this, the fiscal year that we're talking about, I would come to council toward the end of the year to say this is how much we're going to have to push into the next year. So that those monies would be put into a reserved fund to finish paying for it. But I wanted to budget it all within this year, just for ease of you guys seeing where it's coming from, and then we'll take care of that.
And if you look down at the bottom of page 21 on the bottom right, there are your two transfers that we just talked about. The $450,000, which is the remainder. That's just a round number there. It's 451,534 right now, but and then the 300,000 from fund balance, we'll cover that. That's the 750 we need.
On the expenditures on the transportation, I guess GO 405-380.
Yes.
I know I sent a couple weeks ago some pictures of some of the new roads, blacktop, that we've done throughout the city that are already starting to crack and open up.
Yes.
And I'm just afraid, once that penetrates the sub base, we just
Wasted the money.
Wasted money, and there's something that we got from the county. So I'm just curious on that 40-53-80 on that streets M&R. Does that include on the budget to help reseal?
So the way we budget in the transportation fund is, it's not over in the notes. I take all of the sales tax that we expect to get, and a third of the, and even close to things like finishing up.
But to answer your question directly, yes.
That's where it would come out of.
Yes.
So
It would come out of that.
That would be
Okay.
any streets maintenance and repair. That would be-
So one of the things we looked at in smaller repairs, you can actually cold patch and it's good 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
on a smaller patch, and it's stable. It withholds, a fair amount of use. But Cliff went out and actually measured, looked at the depth and the width of the crack, and there's just no way to cold patch that. It's got to be heat. So we're going to go back, and we have funds for that now, and we're going to reseal all of that. It just took a little longer because we wanted to make sure we were going to do the most cost-effective but yet good patch. So Cliff folded like a cheap chair.
Well, I guess just lesson learned too. Remember we went round and round, and the county engineer said this is a 30-year road, and it's a year and a half, and we already have cracks that are pretty big and long.
The ground is moving a massive amount.
With the drought.
So we're not seeing it just at Oakwood Shores. We're seeing it
everywhere.
Cypress Court and some of the other asphalt streets.
But to answer your question, yes, and we will adjust those budgets as needed. But there's a healthy portion of that this go around
And
as
then
well.
we had a discussion about using some of that streets in our budget for the Oakwood Shores. Because that could be used for any streets, but we wanted to reserve as much, so that's why we have 300,000 coming out of fund balance, so that we have adequate for the streets.
So are we comfortable that it's between drought effect and normal wear and tear?
Yep.
And not increased activity, because that's one of the things we went over was, is this the right time to build the roads, reconstruct them with, activity picking up out there?
Sure. Your points from the main road surface to new homes, and you'll also find them at the intersections on the corners. That's where you show your first wear on the edges when they make the turns, and the departure points before the curbs are met. Will we see some of that? Sure, it's inevitable. It is what it is, and but like Rory said, what we're seeing now is, I'm not going to say an anomaly because it is happening everywhere. I mean, streets are crumbling because of this. What we don't want is to get down into the road base, and that's the key is to stay out of that. So I do see a little bit of wear already on some of the corners. What do you do though? As we discussed that, your 200 plus homes yet to go. It's gonna wear. It is. We'll just try to stay on top of it and go from there. We do have the new ordinances that will help to provide some teeth into contractor damage and all.
What they build.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that was the main selling
That's
point. And we're seeing the repercussions of, word spreads, roads are good, water's coming in, internet's coming in, and people they're building like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So is in a perfect world or perfect scenario, the road would be perfect at the end of this, but I don't think it will be. But we'll stay on top of it, and that's the best we can do. Yeah, I'm with you.
For about $15 million.
Cliff said it best. Give me $35 million, and we'll give you it. I agree with
Concrete
it.
the whole city.
So I was curious about the sidewalks one. It looked like it had a pretty healthy balance.
The sidewalks one, we are not able to use that except for sidewalks.
Right.
So Cliff has some project ideas.
Okay.
We've got some remainder funds to build out of that, but we checked. We can use the other two, but we can't use the sidewalk.
So right now, 'cause Cliff and I talked the other day, we're not going to budget for that right now because it may decide to do the same thing.
Looked like it had a pretty good balance. I wasn't sure if
Yeah.
we were planning for anything
Yeah.
yet, or I hadn't heard
It has
anything.
to be spent on sidewalks. And then there's 55,000 of interest that's not accounted for in these numbers down here. Because you'll notice the weight. But Cliff has no trouble spending money.
So, moving to Fund 30, Water and Sewer Fund. No real great changes on the front side of this. You're looking operating income roughly $956. Budgeted water department $1,381,600. Total operating to 2.6 to 2.4 last year. Operating expenses. If you go down to the bottom of top of page 25, your total expenditures at $861,151 versus $856,186 last year. So, no great change or increase there. It's pretty much status quo. There are been some, it's come out pretty well. Water department, again, the biggest increases here are going to be insurance, fuel, yeah, M&R. So we got 896, 548 versus 787, 499 last year.
A big chunk of that is the water lines, M&R.
Yeah.
Yeah, the plugging of well one.
Yeah, which is going to be required by TCEQ, so we have to do that, or we'll be forced to do that.
And then the other part is the BWA increase.
Which we're working on that. We're bringing that to council to talk about the water usage. Solid waste, 630 versus 580 last year. Again, we're writing off depreciation on that.
Depreciation will increase because we have more assets going on.
Yeah.
That's just a guess.
And then we've got non-operating expenses on the back side of page 28. No real great changes there. So if you will, no other questions, if you'll go back to the front of your page here, the very front page. Kirsten, can you blow that up?
Just on the bottom part,
Yes, ma'am.
the list.
Where the supplementals are, yeah. So we talked about the supplemental items. So basically all the numbers that you looked at today, and I need to be on.
What are you looking for?
No, I was looking for the total budget. So all in all of the supplemental items, you know, I just went over this and you're all, okay, here we go. So total budget without any supplementals is 2.577843. Last year's budget was 2838781. If we do all of the supplementals that were requested, our budget will be 2.691320. Again, last year's budget was 2.838781. Yeah, bottom of page 13. The gold number is everything included except for the 575 for the street project, not the Oakwood Shores project, the additional two. So the supplemental items we ranked in what staff thinks is based on need. So the number one request is the creation and hiring of a full-time code enforcement officer. Number two is legal review and recodification of the ordinances, which I believe was $14K. Review and recodification. Their legal team actually comes in, writes the ordinances, reviews legally, and we can bring all of this to bulk to council at one time. If we do not do this, we will be bringing you painful, play-by-play, one-by-one ordinances that by the time we get through, it will be
But I would still have to send them to Muni Code to be codified,
and
put into the
to be
agenda. It
posted.
still costs me to do that individually.
So that is request number two. Request number three is a marquee sign, digital marquee sign. There are a couple of things that I think that are worth talking about here, and I know some people would think that $30K is a lot of wasted money on a sign. There are actually some benefits to this. that may help us in the long run. And one of these is our public notifications. This will help meet some of our requirements for our public notifications too. Is if, God forbid, we have a storm and we lose internet, or we lose the ability to tweet or get on Facebook, we have the ability to make signage here. Not just posting on the door where you can drive down the street and see it. So that actually ranked number 3.
Does this,
It's the short one, right?
The
Not
tall one.
Oh, it's the tall one.
This one I think
Is
would
it you with
be,
the
so these
red
have to be
top?
without a state right away, so it's probably gonna have to actually be in the parking lot in a couple spots. Both sides, digital both sides, visible both directions.
and this meets all legal requirements of the posting?
Yes.
Well, in addition to what I said.
In addition,
already.
yeah.
Oh, you have to
I
We still have to. We still have to
post
make
agenda.
legal
post on the door
requirements.
and everything. Can't just post on the sign.
But this will also help Caribbean continue to win their awards, because part of where we do lack in the governor's award is outreach and ability to notify the city of things that are going on, and education, and this would help there also.
Well, when the internet goes down, the phones go down, so
Yep.
Well, and does this have some
like I
kind
said,
of
this is a
backup?
way to,
Yeah, I mean,
It's on our
it'll be a
generator.
computer, but should it does go down, you can manually update it also.
And we'll make sure Eric can't touch it.
No, it's required.
I can't do it.
Number 4 is purchase and implementation of debt book software is required by our auditors. There's some GASB requirements that one of the things that we're working on in our transparency is openness of our books and reporting. And so we've got our transparency star. We're working on our debt star. We've won our awards, but now we're going to try to go to the next level, which is even harder and even more in-depth auditing of our books. And those audits require a different set of books than what we currently do.
Well, and with GASB 87, it took effect in June of 21, and the accounting for leases, as small as our copier leases and as big as our fire engine lease, any other leases we would enter into, have to be accounted for in a totally different way. There is constant journal entries to make. There's a lot of reporting you have to do for them. So what our auditors have recommended is this software called DebtBook that will do all the heavy lifting for us. If we don't pay for the software, we have to pay our auditors to do it. So really the software is going to be less expensive because it's not really something I'm capable of doing.
What's the cost?
So the normal cost is $6,000 a month, or a year, I mean. We get a 10% discount, but we put it in at $6,000 because it would be annual, $6,000. It's like
$6,000 a year.
$58.50, I think is the. And then that software also will do a lot of our debt reporting. And so it will make it, as Eric was alluding to, the transparency. Both of our leases and of our debt will be much easier for me to produce and to make public. So it's kind of twofold for our transparency and also for our audit process.
This software was recommended by our auditors, and I think that's kind of crucial, that knowing how we want to make those next steps in our transparency and do this, that they recommended that this is the way to go. Otherwise, we're going to pay it in our audit fee anyway. Somebody has to go hands-on with these books. Lastly is the $575,000, as we discussed, council, in the past. With the fund balance that we have now, I truly believe that we should attempt a major project cash towards the end of 23. Not saying October 1. I'm talking August or September. Let's see how the year goes, but we can utilize the money now. But put the money aside but don't use it until the end of the year. But we have, 1.8 in unassigned funds. Had Cliff identify what he determines is one of the worst roads that we have. And I truly believe this would be, much like the Magnolia project where we paid cash for it. This is a great step forward if we can start doing this once every year or once every other year. That's
Are you talking about Cypress Drive and Misty Court?
Yep.
Because that was part of the stuff that got ripped up by accident?
No.
Yes.
Well, that portion of the road
We fixed
was,
the part that messed up.
but it was all bad anyway.
Yeah.
We didn't approve for the.
So
big
what's the
keep
cost of
going.
that?
$575.
$575K?
Yes, sir.
No,
Right,
we
that's,
come out
that's
of
the
fund
cost
balance.
opinion as of last month.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's an estimate. You got it.
But that
So-
would be a transfer to transportation fund from
Yes.
general fund balance.
And we believe that is the worst road in Richwood right now, or in
Minus Oakwood Shores.
minus Oakwood.
Yeah.
When Eric says that, it might not be the worst one now, but it has the best potential for failing, or I think it has the most potential for failing in the next 2-3 years. And we've seen what failed roads do. So we're just trying to stay ahead of that. There are others, they're not as long, but also don't have as many houses on them, or not heavily traversed as well. So in my opinion, this is probably the best.
We had talked also that when we finished up the road projects, we would go back to like on San Saba about the driveways and stuff. Has that been finished or are we still waiting?
No, we're still waiting.
So should that be listed here also?
We can if you, what was that, 30,000?
Yeah, it was
28,
I think it was like 30.
Yeah, 28, 30.
Yeah.
I think, Mike, to be honest with you, I think at this point, if we want to add it, we can. But I think it would behoove us to get a new cost estimate because those numbers were, that was pre-fuel, that was pre-everything. That's, I'm going to say 20 to maybe 30% off.
I just don't want it to be forgotten.
Yeah. But we can add that.
Yeah.
If that's what council so desires, we can.
I mean, I think Matt was pretty hot on that.
Yeah,
and
no,
I agree.
I thought we were still hoping the project money was going to cover that, not supplemental in the budget. But
Yeah, we were running a little bit close, in my opinion, on the transportation fund to finish them with Oakwood Shores. I just didn't want to jump the gun on anything. There's been a couple of things open up, but if we're talking about fund balance, we can get another estimate, and the money is definitely there.
Either way, Mike and Matt, a portion of that fund is going to come out of general fund anyway, but either to finish Oakwood Shores or to do the driveways extensions. So
no, I'm glad Mike brought it up. That's what I was thinking that
if council
stayed on
says
top of the
Yeah.
project, not so much
And if
a
you
supplemental.
look, on page 22, I have a breakdown as of May 31st of this year of where the transportation fund balance would be if we closed the books that day, and how it's divided up between streets, sidewalks, and drainage. And there's two caveats. The streets money can only be used for streets, but the drainage and sidewalks can be used for any of the three, because the transportation, those come from transportation fund for fees, and they can be used for any of the three. So we could either take the money for the San Saba, we can increase the amount that we're pulling out for capital projects to finish Oakwood Shores by the 30,000 from there, or, which is not general, transportation fund is not a general fund, but it's restricted, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Or we could take an additional 30,000 from, increase that 575 to 605 or whatever, which, however council wanted to go. But I wanted you to be aware of where that money sits.
we can put it in. That's not a problem.
On full-time code enforcement officer, where are we getting these estimates from?
Basically, what I did was I kind of polled the general area what they're paying, and went with that.
Okay, I thought I heard things when we first talked about this several months ago about being really expensive.
That's
And
if we wanted it to be also inspections, like.
If we wanted building inspector
another
as well.
Kenny, if we want
Yeah.
another Kenny.
So this would not be permits or inspections, purely,
Purely
Maybe
code.
little inspections, like rental,
Rentals.
like no plan review, none of that, but rental inspections that are just city required, checklist based, not necessarily needing a certification, I guess.
So that salary and everything was based on what Eric provided me for an hourly figure, and then adding in all of our
benefits and all,
benefits
yeah.
and everything. And so that's the main difference between part-time and full-time.
Benefits.
Number one, less hours, but also going from 40 down to 30, but also no insurance.
Which might be harder to find somebody to fill.
No, I guess that's kind of where I'm getting at. I believe in that one as a supplemental. I just want to make sure we believe that's enough for what we're wanting.
For strictly code enforcement.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Matt. I think starting out, it's a good starting figure to get us in. As it's been a while since we've had one here, we probably will see things change as it goes, how we're utilizing them, training requirements, things of that nature as it goes. There'll be a change, I'm sure, at some point, but the good thing is, like y'all had mentioned, we already own the car. There's no additional expense there. It's purely uniform and personnel at this point, so,
Computer.
yeah.
Just minor.
And we could always say the perfect candidate that walked in the door that was certified and everything, we could always come back to you guys to say we have this opportunity.
Yeah, I think that in my mind, and that's kind of what I would envision. Maybe we talked about employee retainment, and so growth is a part of that. So someone that can come in with limited scope, but we can work on
Grow into the
training.
We can train them
position.
up.
Yeah.
Cliff won't be here forever. Maybe it's somebody trying to 20 years from now.
He signed
20
a
years from
50-year contract.
You got it in blood.
no, 20 years from now.
We actually believe he will be here forever.
Okay.
So all in all, council, minus the 575 for the road, we're presenting a budget that, with all of the supplementals minus the road, that's the caveat here, is less than last year's. Covers our COLA for the employees, covers our M&R needs, and it gets us where we need to go. Intentionally leaving room for the supplemental items, which I think all of them are worthy. And I think all of them will keep us moving forward. And we talk about, visionary items or enjoining items. One of the projects that KRB, and I can't speak, and I don't want to speak for KRB, but is redoing the median out in front of our city hall, and to make kind of a focal point for the city. Well, what would be even better than that is to put our new sign out there as well, and we would look modern and inviting like all of the other cities around us. And I hate to use that cliche that we want to be like all the other cities behind her, but we're kind of old school right now. So let's move into the future with that. And what I deem all the other supplementals are just common sense. But that's pretty much it. And we can bring, if council so desires, we will bring back the driveway extensions or completions, whatever you want to call them. We will write that into the budget as well. Does anybody have any other questions or any additions or subtractions you wish to see
I
on
wanted to
there?
add something on the recodification. It's a hefty price, but it's going to save me some time and some cost in codifying individual ordinances. But it's also going to assist in code enforcement if we do hire somebody.
Yes.
They're going to reorganize, relabel, renumber the whole thing. They will go through and give me a whole new book. It won't be, it even upgrades us to a newer format of code online. I think it would really assist whoever we have coming in to have a clean, coherent code to then go out and try to use to do their job.
What would that timeline be? I mean, if we approved it, what are they, 6 months? They could
Yes.
take-
Yeah, well, they offered me to split the cost between 2 fiscal years, meaning they wanted to get started this year and then finish by December, but I just couldn't afford $7,000 right now. So, yes, they're giving me 4 to 6 months timeline because the review's already done. We all
Yeah.
paid for that last year. Of course, that's not free either. So, yeah.
I guess one other item to consider, I saw the increase in PD's budget for trapping food. So I wondering at all and animal control, I think we've talked and Angleton has no desire, not that we just don't pay for it now, but they have no desire to include that as a service to us if we paid for it. Is that correct?
Nope.
So, what are we comfortable with everything we have in this budget? And what I understand the current plan is PD helps to the extent they can, maybe loans out the traps, and there's no other trapping services.
I think short of, again, hiring an animal control officer, I think we've pretty much reached our full potential. I know there are some regional animal control issues being talked about and worked out through several cities, and my recommendation to council is let's see what these other cities do, and maybe we could join with them on one of these endeavors to help out. But I have no real concerns with what's happening with our animal control. It works fairly well, except for the one particular problem. And I would hate to jump a little early when.
Yeah, I just think we need to solve that problem. And I feel like the latest, I'm going to say that, I feel like the latest when we told the residents, y'all's problem, deal with it. And one resident in particular who is vocal about it, but I think there's probably other residents that are just as unhappy.
Yeah.
So that's the part I would like to, I agree, it's pretty isolated, but thinking also from trapping of, other larger problems,
Yeah. Most of your cities don't trap.
Okay.
So by us providing the trap, we're providing more of a service than call Lake Jackson, see what they'll do. They're not going to trap for you. It's the liabilities that are involved there. One, you're broaching on people's properties. Even if you're invited, what if it's a renter? They have legal standing to be there. What if you trap the neighbor's cat and it dies, and it's a tag cat or a legal cat, and then the litany of stuff goes on. We'll provide the trap and go from there. If council wants to look at something else, we can, but we have, I think other than the feral cat problem, we have most of our animal control issues are taken. I saw animal control out here this morning, handling up on a problem, so. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, and it's talking about adding a supplemental cost for that, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, I just wondered if there's any other,
It's probably not really like $2,500 just for animal food for trapping. I assume there's probably more to that budget item, right?
Oh, yeah.
It just says, that's just all the notes that are on there.
Supplies. Originally, Chief had it under food, but I was worried that he would get the food mixed up, feed his patrol officers the cat food or something, so I simply
That could be a mess.
put it down to expendables.
Right. Because, yeah, it went from 700,
I
I
think
see
he
what
had
you're talking about, the
got it
line
in.
yeah, I
item.
mean, it just,
Yeah, that's a
I think
pretty
it
big
was
jump.
1,000 that he had for food for traps.
and if all it is, we can put on traps, then there's no other budget items we could amend to help solve that problem?
Well, I know that's what we've had clued over when my dad's place. My dad used to have them come over and trap cats, and what they would do is they'd leave the trap, and then Dad would trap them, and then call them and come pick it up. And that's basically they wouldn't do it themselves or set them out.
So anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, I think the 5% COLA is great, you know, that everything's going up, and for us to budget for that is a great thing to do. My only concern outside of the COLA is the 9.06% inflation numbers that we have, and making sure that on this budget that we do, that we're helping account for that. I know we're only projecting, you know, the 3.5% increase in property tax revenues, but everything else is going to compound on top of that 9.06 latest inflation
And that's why,
number.
you know, the revenues here are really strictly for just some guidance right now.
Right.
I am hopeful that our tax rate is going to be lower than this last year, because we can only collect 3.5% more than we did the year before. And so that's what that's based on. But when I get the numbers from the county, their calculations are always a little different than what I can come up with, because they are privy to more. And with sales tax, I don't see us, the type of businesses that we have, I don't see them being greatly affected right now. As far as if a recession hits or whatever, we're not, you know, big retailers that, you know, it's just disposable income people are spending. Sales tax continues to trend up, and it has starting last fiscal year all through this fiscal year, and this month was the biggest month we've ever collected. So
Yeah, I mean, it's the corollary between
yeah,
everything going up,
yeah,
9.06%.
yeah. When prices go up, sales tax goes up as long as people keep buying whatever is being sold in the city. With some of the things, you know, like gasoline for the vehicles, you know, I averaged this year, well, this year started in the $2 range, and now it's, you know, 4 something or whatever. So I took the average and I added 30%. It's a total unknown if they're gonna bounce back up or go back down, you know. But so I tried to build some of that in.
Okay. I'm just throwing it out there, just
Yeah,
making,
yeah.
seeing how we accounted for the
Yeah.
inflation numbers, and I know it's, I guess, what's the word of the day, unprecedented, that we've been using for the past 3 years.
Yes, yes, we
Over and over.
keep unprecedenting things.
Over and over. Yeah, at some point it becomes normal.
Insurance, I know it's gonna go up, and we should get our quotes soon, because they take effect October 1st. So we'll be getting our quotes soon, but I just kind of jumped up to the next level, you know. It's hard for me to even estimate what they're gonna be. And it could be by the time I'm up, you know, I'll have them, you know, and they'll be in there, and I'll have, you know, more information.
We, like I said, we are scheduled to get our certifieds on August 1, so we'll know. But even then, the certifieds have their doubt too. But it's usually a small percentage.
Last year, they had so many protests that they were not able to give us a certified amount by the due date. It was a certified estimate.
I think this year is worse.
And this year's going to be worse, so I'm not expecting it to be any different. They will also give us our options for tax rate, their calculation. They put a lot of things in that I don't even know the answer to the questions. I tried to go through their worksheet, and I didn't know a lot of it. But right now, you know, based on what I can calculate, our tax rate's gonna go down, and revenues will still go up 3.5%.
If it's the council's desire, we will bring back, we will add the driveway extensions on here as well. And like I said, I roughly think there were 30,000, but we need to get a current cost estimate because that's prior to. And anything else?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Okay. Let's
Station.
Okay. Council member comments and reports. Anybody got any reports? Mike, Melissa?
Which we saw here tonight, so that was good. First meeting with them. good to take more of a detailed look at their budget and what they're providing to the city, instead of the big look that we always look from here on the dais, so. Appreciate that.
Okay.
And it's budget season, so, you know, it'd be nice, those of you on YouTube, to come join us in person. Let us know what you think, you know, make some comments on this. Tax rates will be coming up for discussion soon.
Roy?
No, nothing to comment.
How about you, Karen? Okay. Well, I can tell you about the only thing that I've got is upcoming. Got the meeting at the fairgrounds regarding the wastewater. I will be there, and I was real pleased with the work that it went rather uneventful, except they did have a little mishap with a transformer, but blowing.
I think that was all.
I gotta say, when I did go during Nicholas, when they were repairing everything, and I was real pleased to see that they're sending folks that's familiar with the area. Give Centerpoint and Frontline a pat on the back for a job well done, and thank them very much. And that's about it for me. Future agenda items.
We have two of the items already from last week already added.
All right.
I'm going to bring a fee schedule amendment for replat filing fees.
Okay. We will be adjourned at 7:15 p.m.